blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland. And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. Have you ever had a dream you were so sure was real?
Hello everyone, welcome to Let's Play The Matrix Path of Neo. This is going to be the next game that I'm LPing, probably the last one of 2021. A little bit different than a lot of the stuff that I normally do. Most people who watch my LPs know that I'm mainly known for doing silly little platformers and games for babies, TBH. That I grew up with. This game is one that I'm very new to, so excuse my probably being kind of bad at it. I wanted to do a Matrix game, though, because, well, for a number of reasons, but I really like The Matrix and like the whole series, which I'm sure I'll get into. And the fourth Matrix movie, Matrix Resurrections, is coming out around Christmas time. And I am hoping, knock on wood, that if everything works out, a bunch of friends and I will be going to see it together opening night. I wanted to make a big thing out of it. You know, it's been a long hiatus until partway through this summer for me that I have, gone to movie theaters with any frequency because of the pandemic and shit. And it's been a long time since I've, made the effort to see a movie on opening day and make a big thing out of it with friends, and so building up to that, I thought it would be fun to do one of the two main console Matrix games that came out in the 2000s. The first one, and the more famous one, is Enter the Matrix, which came out in 2003, the same year that Matrix Reloaded and Revolutions came out. And it was meant to be a, canonical extension of the story of those two movies, where you play as Captain Niobe, who is, I think that's Jada Pinkett Smith's character, and then one of the other characters. You never play as Neo or anything. You don't really play stuff that's in the movies. It's, again, all supplementary stuff. The most notable part of it, other than the fact that all of the mocap and voices, is all of the original actors from the movie. Not only that, but there are whole live-action cutscenes directed and written by the Wachowski sisters that were filmed during the filming of Matrix 2 and 3, which is pretty neat. And, again, they do tie into the story and everything. But the game is also known for being incredibly rushed and kind of shitty. So I didn't know if I wanted to do that one. And I was kind of more intrigued and thought it might be more appropriate to do this one, because this one has you playing as Keanu Reeves himself, as Neo, and has you actually playing through the events of the three Matrix movies. And I thought that would be cool, to do a, play through a game that takes you through the plot of the 3 movies and then end it off with the 4th one. I'm hoping to have this LP end shortly after the release of the 4th movie. So, like, probably, I want to put up the last video of this, like, right after Christmas. So that I can spend the last video maybe offering some thoughts on the new Matrix movie, and I'm sure I'll be talking about the Matrix movies quite a bit in this series because I like them a lot. I'm also hoping to have some co-commentators join me at some point in the run. I have several friends that are also big Matrix heads. Most of them are going to see the movie with me, and it would be cool to have them come on and share some thoughts and whatnot. Anyway, this first part is kind of strange, kind of threw me off for when I was, starting playing this. As far as I know, it just keeps going until you run out of health. I'm sure there is an end that you can get to, because, it lets you retry, but it doesn't punish you for dying or anything. It just kind of moves you on. I guess it's supposed to just, for one thing, set the whole mood of the Matrix thing, give you a little preview of some people you're going to fight, including this guy, and, like, the agents and shit. But you haven't, like, gotten a whole lot of moves yet. Not a whole lot of what is happening is explained to you, other than just the controls. And, you're just in this simulation deal. And it's also kind of weird, like, when this supposedly takes place, because the next part is going to be the beginning of the first movie before we find out what the Matrix is. But anyway, I lasted a lot longer this time around than I did the first time I played this, because, so I bought this game recently on eBay, with the intention of playing through a little bit of it, just to the point that I was, like, for one thing, comfortable LPing it. Like, I feel like I at least kind of get the controls now, although they are a little bit wonky. I'm hoping that maybe, 2 playthroughs into it, I'll get used to them and be able to do these, like, button combos and shit a lot better. I'm not really, like, this kind of action game where you're, like, stringing together combos and stuff is not really the kind that I have a whole bunch of prior exposure to, so it's kind of something I have to settle into. And there are just a lot of controls and shit, a lot of different things you can do, a lot of different combinations. Probably not by the standards of, I'm sure if you're a much bigger gamer than I am, it's probably quite rudimentary, honestly, but, just, like, the controls aren't always as responsive as I would like, and also the camera can be a little bit annoying at times. But I am giving it the benefit of the doubt because, again, I'm still, like, getting used to it, so I'm just gonna, like, chalk it up to that. But overall, it's at least so far for me, a mostly fun and like, cool game, and like I said, I love the Matrix movies, so it's fun to have something in that. And I'm about to just get blasted. Yeah, there you go. And also, there are clips from the movies in this game that I am going to be including, but I hope that they don't present any copyright problems. I may have to end up, like, flipping them or shrinking them or speeding them up like I did with Chicken Little, or otherwise altering them to not get in trouble, but I don't want to cut them out entirely because they're cool and whatnot, but we'll see what happens.
You like watching him. We're gonna kill him. You understand that?
Morpheus believes he is the one.
Do you?
It doesn't matter what I believe.
You're my savior, man. You have a problem with authority, Mr. Anderson.
I don't know if you're ready to see what I want to show you. But unfortunately, you and I have run out of time.
The answer is out there, Neo. It's looking for you.
Morpheus.
And it will find you if you want it to. It's the question that drives us, Neo. It's the question that brought you here.
What is the Matrix? We'll need a search running.
I've been looking for you, Neo.
You're in danger.
What the hell do they want from me?
I don't know, but if you don't want to find out, I suggest you get out of there.
How?
I can guide you, but you must do exactly as I say. Remember, do exactly as I say. The cubicle across from you is empty. Go, now.
Okay, so now we have the real opening of the game,
The cube wall.
which is, I mean, this, I watched like a long play of this game. Not the whole thing, obviously, but I, skimmed a long play of this game before I decided on, and Enter the Matrix, before I decided which one I wanted to play. I do plan on trying Enter the Matrix at some point. I also want to know if there's any way of, like, if there's any, like, fan mirrors or anything of the Matrix MMO that they used to have. Because that would be pretty cool. Because the MMO also has story stuff that is canon to the Matrix lore, which I will say I've seen the 3 Matrix movies and I've seen the Animatrix, which is very underrated. I really enjoy that movie as well. But I can't say, I'm a fairly new convert to Matrix. I mean, the first time that I really saw the first one all the way through was 3 years ago. Like, it was as an adult, so because I was like pretty young when it came out, and it wasn't really my thing at the time. But now I love it, and I love 2 and 3 as well. I know those are the ones that people think are shitty, but I think they're great. I think Reloaded is just about as good as the first one. I think 3 is the weakest of the 3, but I still think it's a great movie. And I don't have as many problems with the ending or the wacky fight scenes or use of CG that a lot of people do with those movies. But anyway, I'm going all over the place. I was gonna say I watched the long play of this, and this part is really like what excited me, just being able to play through this part, because I feel like if you're a person in the early 2000s and you're a big Matrix fan and there's Matrix video games coming out, I feel like this is a part that you would want to play through. This, the hallway scene, which we will get to do, the fights with Agent Smith, the fighting of the millions of Agent Smith in Reloaded, which is also a segment in this game. Like, that's the kind of stuff that just I can imagine, being in the theater in 1999 or 2003, like, being like, holy shit, that's what I want. That's what I would want to play in a video game, in a console action game based on the Matrix movies, is those moments. To just have this little, like, stealth mode thing, which, at least so far as I've played through about 2/3 of the way through the game at this point on my original file, and there's really no other part very similar to this where you're sneaking around. The vast majority of the challenge in this game is, beating up and shooting hordes of enemies, and, sometimes keeping your teammates alive, sometimes you're doing shit. Anyway, but I like this little part. It's simple and everything, it's easy, they really hold your hand through it. It's mostly an extended tutorial. The first, I would say, hour and a half of this, or maybe even 2 hours of this, is pretty tutorial-esque. That's part of the reason why this first video is so long. Most of the videos aren't going to be quite this long, but I am going to be putting them in the closer to like the 30 to 35 minute range. Normally my LP videos, I try to make them between 20 and 25 minutes each, but I don't want this game to take forever. Like, I don't want to split it up into too many videos, and also there's just a lot of like longer... The sections to this game are longer, and I want there to be like actually good cutoff points and not just like have an arbitrary amount of time where I'm like, okay, I'm going to cut it off here and it's awkward or whatever. So I wanted to get a lot of this introductory stuff out of the way in the first video, and specifically wanted to get to the first point where we're going to actually see the path of Neo, because that is like a gameplay mechanic in this that is purely just for the game. It's, I mean, as far as I am aware, not an actual part of the Matrix story. Certainly not something they reference in the actual text of the movie itself. But yeah, so now we're sneaking around. This part is kind of silly and roundabout, because we're gonna be going on these bridge things a couple of times. It's also funny how these cops like don't shoot you yet, because you're just a guy, I guess. I guess right now you're just like a disgruntled worker. They're not just gonna fill you with lead right away. Unrealistic cops. I guess it's the Matrix, though. As for liking the Matrix movies, like I said, I'm gonna get more in-depth talking about these movies as we go along, liberally throughout the LP. And especially when I bring co-commentators on, I can, you know, I feel like we'll get into some pretty good riff sessions on these movies. But just some of the like broad reasons that I really like the first film, the things that really stood out to me the first time I saw oh, this part's funny. I just like that fucking ragdoll through the... And the fact that this is what you have to do. And something confusing about this part of the game is there are some times where it's like, okay, now do the thing that like makes you die. And that's how you progress. That guy's standing in his window like, what the fuck is going on out there? And yeah, you just push him over. The cop's like, oh, jeez. He also goes up the ladder, pretty funny. But yeah, things with the first movie that really made me enjoy it a lot on the first go-round is it's a great turn of the millennium, turn of the 21st century movie about the sort of like American end of history angst and skepticism, and obviously there's a whole lot about the, you know, at the time burgeoning surveillance state. It was, you know, thought to be kind of prescient in that regard. The emergence of the early internet and video games is a big sort of conceptual and aesthetic through line in these movies, especially in the second and third movies, where Neo's powers to manipulate the world around him grow, and you get a lot more reliance on CG effects, for better or worse, however you see it, and, you know, reality gets a lot more warped, which is something that the Wachowskis have a very clear interest in their post-Matrix movies, which most people who know me and have watched my videos know that I'm, beyond being a Matrix fan, I'm also just a huge fan of the Wachowski sisters. They're two of my favorite filmmakers in general, but specifically like American filmmakers working right now. I think they're among the best of the best. And I controversially do not really think they have a single bad or mediocre movie in their entire repertoire. And yes, I am counting Jupiter Ascending and Cloud Atlas and the Speed Racer movie. All of those are fucking bangers.
Now, boys, let's move.
I like that little thing where it went through the wall and you could very briefly see the code. And obviously the loading screen being the falling Matrix code is class. I mean, that's what you want. Don't know why I thought you had to bust out this window. And yeah, I was kind of like getting my fucking ass kicked by these cops for a while. It's very easy to be in their grasp. And it's also kind of easy, at least for my dumb brain, to get lost in this warehouse. I had like no idea where I was supposed to be going, because it all looks the same. But I'm looking for a door, I believe. Yeah, here they all come. Yeah, once again, this is like the classic conundrum of the combination of the game's controls and stuff being a little wonky. Not that that particular problem has to do with the controls, of course, but the game's controls being wonky and me also just being bad at video games. Anyway, I was saying about liking the first movie. Obviously, like I said, the Wachowskis, in terms of their use of CG and as well as just editing and framing and story stuff, they seem more interested than almost any other contemporary American filmmakers in actually exploring the sort of like bounds of film language in the era of video games, digital cinematography, digital effects, etc. Just in terms of how they construct and edit their scenes, the way they use computer animation. A very common criticism of Speed Racer at the time that it came out was that the computer effects were stupid and because they didn't look realistic and they looked very cartoony and over the top and stylized, and that's like the point. It's not only a deliberate and, in my opinion, really cool and awesome visual, stylistic choice that I think they pull off incredibly well. I definitely recommend the behind-the-scenes featurette of the making of the Speed Racer movie. But also, in terms of the story and the themes, its use of computer effects and its resemblance visually to, like, anime and stuff in the way that it's edited and framed, it's all tied into the story and shit, so it's I don't understand that criticism. I just have to assume that some film critics don't actually like movies and just like having opinions, but we won't get into all that. But yeah, I also I like that about the Wachowskis. You can definitely see that in the Matrix movies, and it's something that goes throughout their whole filmography that I'm really interested in. As well as the obvious influence drawn from Hong Kong action films and anime and video games in all of their movies, all of which are things I like. So yeah, it's kind of they're kind of like the dream team. I also just like action filmmakers that obviously are influenced by anime and video games and that use that to great stylistic effect to make really in things that do interesting things in the action genre with the actual film form. I would count Paul W.S. Anderson and his Resident Evil series in that. I would count Neville Dean and Taylor with the Crank series, Ghost Rider 2, Gamer, all of those. Ang Lee's Gemini Man, all those kind of fit in with what I'm talking about here.
What if you were unable to wake from that dream? How would you know the difference between the dream world and the real world?
This isn't real.
What is real? How do you define real? If you're talking about what you can feel, what you can smell, what you can taste and see, then real is simply electrical signals interpreted by your brain.
Whoa. Welcome wasn't real.
Your mind makes it real.
Morpheus, what's happened to me?
Do you believe in fate, Neo?
No,
Why not?
because I don't like the idea that I'm not in control of my life.
Fate, it seems, is not without a sense of irony. When the Matrix was first built, there was a man born inside
Stop! Let me out!
who had the ability to change whatever he wanted, to remake the Matrix as he saw fit. It was he who freed the first of us, taught us the truth. That is why there are those of us who have spent our entire lives searching the Matrix, looking for him.
What are you trying to tell me? That I can dodge bullets?
Trying to tell you that when you're ready, you won't have to. Get some rest. You're going to need it.
For what?
Your training.
Welcome to my world, Neo. How's the signal?
It's a little loud.
Is this better?
Where am I?
This, my friend, is a series of combat training simulations.
And this is going to teach me Kung Fu.
Works like a video game tutorial. You do still claim to be the ultimate gamer, right? See that guard? Take him out quietly so the others aren't alerted.
I like how they call him the ultimate gamer.
Real. Just pretend he's your old boss.
Neo is the ultimate gamer. He's also, I thought he was the ultimate hacker. I thought that was his claim to fame, is that he's like the most notorious hacker in the world. But I guess you can be both. There is a lot of overlap between the hacking and gaming communities.
I'll be monitoring your health level.
Anyway, I also like how they say it works like a video game tutorial. That's a very convenient way to have a video game tutorial in your video game. But it works. I mean, it makes sense. That's the fun thing about the Matrix and the whole simulation video gamey element to it. That's part of why the CG never really bothered me in the Matrix movies. For one thing, it doesn't look that bad. And secondly, it's supposed to look, heightened and digital. That's a big part of it. I didn't know until recently that the only, I don't know if it's the only one, but the main available version of the first Matrix movie is actually color-coded. Not color-coded, fucking color-corrected differently than its theatrical release, and I really want to find, a rip of the theatrical release. It's a lot less green. Apparently it was made more green on subsequent, DVD releases to match the aesthetic of 2 and 3, but the thing is, that's a conscious choice with 2 and 3, that it's more green because of Neo's sort of ingratiation into the Matrix and his ability to see the Matrix for what it is, if that makes sense. So, whatever. Anyway, pretty simple stuff here. I'm mostly just gonna keep talking to myself. There's not a whole lot to say about this. We're just learning different button combos, learning how to fight, all that stuff. If I'm gonna be honest, my strategy with a lot of these is to mash buttons in a particular order, but I am becoming a little bit better at stringing together things and actually having an idea of what I want to do. But also, sometimes the responsiveness of the controls as well as the weirdness of the AI and whatnot. Sometimes I'll press triangle a few times as Neo or whatever, and he'll just kind of do a little dance and not really do anything and just get fucking hit in the face. I don't know what that's about. I don't know what I'm doing wrong there, but sometimes it just seems like the video game doesn't want to do what you're telling it to do. Sorry if you keep hearing me drop shit. Stuff keeps falling off my fucking desk. But yeah, I really enjoy, like, even if the controls aren't ideal all the time to me, and even if it's not, I'm sure, again, if you're an actual experienced gamer and not some fucking novice like myself, then I'm sure the combat system in this game is not particularly deep or, maybe not very interesting, but I will say it can be quite satisfying, and I do like the different big finishing moves you can do and all the different combos you can string together and stuff like that. It's pretty cool. And just for me, I'm still, I think most of my viewers know this at this point, that I'm still in my gamer education. I'm still exploring new horizons, trying out new things, trying to improve my skills at video games. I have a very specific relationship with games in my life, of playing a particular couple types of games growing up, and that was really my introduction into being interested in the medium. So I am not the ultimate gamer, to put it shortly. Anyway, here's this control room bit, which I kind of fuck up because I make the alarm go off, which means I don't get the epic secret gun. But, then c'est la vie. That's how it goes sometimes.
If these soldiers stun you, they'll go for a throw, so watch your back.
But yeah, I do think this game really, had a pretty good idea of, like, what people would find satisfying in a game based on the Matrix. Although, maybe they didn't really, capture it well enough, because this game got, like, pretty middling reviews when it came out. Much like the Matrix movies at the time, Reloaded and Revolutions. I think maybe between, like, 3 video games in as many years, 2 main series movies, and then a series of, like, an anthology of cartoons based on the Matrix, and not to mention the numerous Matrix clones that came out in those years, and the complete, like, cultural ubiquity of it. Like, references and parodies of Matrix were the biggest thing ever in the early 2000s, especially, obviously, the bullet time thing. I think maybe in the midst of that milieu, that maybe there was just, especially among the critical class, the people who just consume media for a living, I think maybe there was a bit of Matrix fatigue by the time shit like this was coming out. And I guess I can understand that, but I don't know, I'm not one to get fatigued with things that are cool and not really the norm in movies, because for all the Matrix clones that existed, none of them really, like, brought, like, the physicality and the clarity of motion of Hong Kong action movies that the first film did. Certainly, pretty much none of them were as, like, actually smart or interesting as the first Matrix movie was. Because I think now the Matrix is one of those things that people kind of take for granted. They don't, the things that make it special, I think, have now become rote to a lot of people. And I think that's a shame, because I do think there's still genuinely landmark works of American movies. And they're just damn fun, beyond all that shit, I can make my intellectual and critical analysis and my case for why these movies are really good and whatever. I can try to come up with as many cool adjectives and comparisons as I can. But at the end of the day, it really just mostly comes down to the fact that I just really, really like them. They're really cool.
Last man standing wins.
Like, I hated that one guy on Twitter a couple months back who posted, like, edits of scenes from Matrix Reloaded where he sped up all of the slow-mo parts. Like, the scene on the semi-truck on the highway, to normal speed. And, like, it looks stupid. It sucks. Like, they don't just do these things to waste your time, like, slow it down to waste your time. Like, there can be actual, like, stylistic reasons for slowing down. I know that's something that a lot of American critics didn't really love about John Woo movies when he started making American movies like Hard Target, Face Off, although critics generally liked Face Off. And Mission Impossible 2, all of which are awesome movies. Yeah, they didn't love the slow-mo, but John Woo has this whole body of work before that can clue you in a little bit into like why that style is that way. And it kind of extends in the same way to the Wachowskis, where it's the complaint is that it's all style and no substance, and it's like, did you ever think that maybe the style can be the substance? I mean, also the screenplay of the Matrix movies offers plenty of subtext and cool things to chew on. I mean, there's a million different readings of the first Matrix movie and the concept of the Matrix. There's, the two most obvious ones, I think, are the one where the Matrix is, 90s America, end of history America, where you're kind of living in a simulacrum of a previous time, and nothing really seems right, and there are forces beyond your control taking away your free will but giving you the illusion of it, and stuff like that. Again, end of history, like as in like the Francis Fukuyama end of history conception, where with the fall of the Soviet Union, there's no real existential threat to global capitalism. So that sort of, and like specifically America-centered neoliberal capitalism and financial capitalism. And eventually, of course, techno-capitalism, which is where all this computer shit comes into, and was definitely a thing, coming into being in the 90s and would really pop off in the 21st century, of course. That's the reality we're all living in now. So, there's that reading, there's the queer reading of it. Obviously, the Wachowski sisters are both transgender, and there is a very strong subtext of coming out and just in general sort of self-actualization in the story of Neo in the Matrix. And on a more existential level, obviously there's a lot of religious themes and things in the Matrix. Both they have the very obvious Christian things like Trinity, and when he says, "You're my own personal Jesus Christ," and stuff like that, but those things are sort of like a red herring almost for the more Eastern/Buddhist ideals that I think the movie actually embodies, where the Matrix can just be, a stand-in for just consciousness, just, being a conscious human being and realizing life and existence for what it is. So there's all sorts of stuff, but even if that weren't the case, the style itself, like, film is a visual medium. How they use the visuals is part of the story they're telling. It's not, just arbitrary. These are all decisions that have to be made by a filmmaker. How a scene is shot, how it's cut, what is in the shot and what isn't. These aren't decisions that make themselves, or at least they shouldn't in a movie, and I don't know. I just feel like if you're a person who gets paid to watch movies and whatever, you would A, like them, and B, understand that very simple and fundamental aspect of them. But that's just me. That's my little soapbox, because there's not much to say to talk over, just fighting waves of digital ninjas. But there we go. We are victorious. I like Ninja Neo. It's a good Neo skin. So here is the titular path of Neo. This is what I was talking about earlier that I wanted to do. This is just an example of, you get all these different upgrades. You can view what the upgrade is, like this. Focus is a very basic one. You're pretty much going to be using focus whenever you're attacking enemies or doing anything that requires any level of focus. But yeah, so we'll be going through all of these. I hope this is an LP that you guys are excited for, because I certainly am, and I'll see you guys next time for the rest of this game, and we'll probably talk more about the Matrix movies a little bit, so see you then for that.